Tell me what happens to the season if the Florida Gators win out.
Well, if Florida wins out and Alabama, wins this weekend and next weekend, you very likely, almost positively, will get Alabama and Florida in the college football playoff. Reason being that Alabama is number one right now, Zubin, and they have been so dominant that they have very little else, if anything, to prove. So, short of losing the SEC game in 2.5 weeks by 30 points, they're in at worst at the number 4 position. What's really interesting is you could get Alabama losing that game, Florida in. You could get Clemson barely beating Notre Dame, and ultimately get 2 from the ACC and 2 from the SEC for the national playoffs. And can you imagine the screaming and hollering from the Big Ten? And not that I was about to add and the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 doesn't matter, never has. So therefore, we are heading for a possible chaotic finish, which we normally don't have.
Paul, you can see Keyshawn's face right now. It's so tense. It's so angered.
Good. It's all good, man. Paul knows we.
Hey guys,
we good, brother.
Keyshawn, when does I've been a little bit snowed under the last couple. When does the Pac-12 start playing football?
I'm gonna leave it alone. USC is 3-0. They're just doing with beating the teams they put in front of them. I understand. I understand. I get it.
They're 3-0. I mean, that's like your kids' Pee-wee team. They finished the season 3-0. I mean, this is college football.
Yet. It's not over yet. And
well, it's pretty close.
The fact that you mentioned they're just 3-0. There's a
we
team
are 3-0, and it's December 2nd, and Key is bragging about his team being 3-0.
They got a late start. Calm down, Paul. Speaking of teams,
they did. They did.
Paul, speaking of teams,
they got a late start, Key, and they're going to have an early finish.
You better just stay right in Alabama and not come out west to cover nothing. Because you walk through that airport, you're going to be in trouble, buddy. But
These are the best interviews of all time.
Let me ask you this, though, Paul. You mentioned SC, for instance, 3-0. Let's talk about a team in the Big Ten that's 4-0 that last night is still in position based on the college football playoff rankings at the number 4 spot, Ohio State. Only 4 games. Are you surprised that they're sitting at 4 with only 4 games under their belt?
A little bit, but the chairman of the committee, as only the chairman of the college football committee can be, he said that if Texas A&M, which by the way has gone to Alabama and lost and beaten Florida, which is number 6, looked a little more impressive against LSU, which is only the defending champion, then perhaps he would have moved them up. But instead, they kept Ohio State where they are. Ohio State is the story of college football right now. Can they finish the season? They desperately need to play this weekend. And if they play next weekend against Michigan, they will then qualify for the Big Ten championship game. But the most important thing to remember is even if they don't qualify for the Big Ten championship game, they can still get 6 games in, which is fairly important. And then this committee is going to have to determine is a 6-0 Ohio State team more worthy than the number 2 team and possibly the number 3 team in the SEC or the ACC? It's going to be a dilemma, but it's created by the chaos of this season. And quite frankly, not to sound like an I told you so, because I leave that to you, Key, the Big Ten did all of this to themselves. They should have never done what they did back in August, and they wouldn't be in the mess that they are currently in now.
Told you so. Notre Dame and Clemson will play their final regular season game this week, Paul. If Notre Dame beats Syracuse, should they be guaranteed a spot in the playoff no matter what happens in the ACC championship game?
I think they should be pretty close to getting in. Now, I mean, they can't show up at the ACC title game and get their head taken off by 30 or 40 points. That would be a terrible look. But I think they've done a lot. Notre Dame has been, outside of Alabama, the most impressive team in college football, and they're really not that far. They've had some sloppy games early on. They barely beat Louisville 12-7. They went on the road the other day and won an impressive game against North Carolina. And I know those of you who are thinking it's college basketball season, may not think that's a big deal in football, but it is. North Carolina has a very good football team this year under Mack Brown. So I'm incredibly impressed with Brian Kelly and what he has done. A couple of years ago, this guy was given up for dead. He resurrected that program. He brought in mostly a new staff, and he has done a phenomenal job.
Paul, what do you make of Bob Stoops helping out at the OU program this week?
I thought it was pretty funny. It was so bad, Jay, that he had to issue a statement yesterday saying, "Hey, nothing's going on here. I'm just helping out an old friend." I think Bob did it because Lincoln Riley called him. Bob Stoops has been such an interesting person to follow because he did come back and coach briefly in one of those spring leagues, the name of which I've lost track of. But he remains someone that a lot of schools are wondering about. Would he consider coming back? There was a time when everybody coveted Bob Stoops, and I think what he did is open the door for that speculation to continue, along with Urban Meyer.
Indeed. Go ahead, Keyshawn.
No, I was going to say, speaking of that, and there is a coach in Tom Herman that's sitting in Texas. I don't want to get rid of Tom Herman just yet. But is that a possibility if that job becomes available? Is that a possibility for Urban Meyer?
Yeah, it sounds like that job is about to become available. I've never seen. The University of Texas fan base, has retired the trophy when it comes to eating their own. They ran Mack Brown out. They ran Charlie Strong out. They thought they had found the chosen one in Tom Herman, and he hasn't won anyone over. I think Urban Meyer would be the number one choice. Now, the only thing I don't know, Key, is whether Urban Meyer wants to coach anymore.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.